recording of the show, which will go up on YouTube afterwards, and you can also get the podcast version as well, which if you go to thecommondiscourse.com, you can see right there on your screen. Click on podcast or TCD videos.
Yep.
You'll get it up that way. So,
can I just make one little announcement?
Absolutely.
Everybody, this is our 1 year celebration.
1 year celebration.
Yeah, so let's just raise a glass.
Raise a glass, everyone. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, guys. And we've 1 year in.
Yeah. Thank you to all the listeners.
Yes, absolutely. Pardon me. So, should we get right into it? First, I thought we'd hit a bit of Australian news first up. What do you think?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, let's go.
Okie-dokie, roll 'em!
So, apparently there's only one thing going on in Australia right now, and that's gay marriage. Have you heard enough about gay marriage yet, guys?
Yeah, I'm pretty much sick of it.
Pretty much sick of it?
And
I think I'm up to date.
Up to date?
There's another 2 months, isn't it? Or how long?
Is it really?
Yeah,
2
it's in
months?
November that we found out the results
God.
of the referendum.
God.
It's good voting.
Yeah?
I
Oh,
can't-
you've already sent your ticket away, have you?
Yeah, I have.
Yep.
I like it. It comes in the mail.
Yep.
It's got the envelope in there. You just vote and send it out.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, maybe they could do this for other elections.
Well, why don't we do it for all elections?
No, I think so,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
like whatever the issue is, like say everyone, should we introduce a 10% tax on sugar? It's like, just send it out in the mail, guys.
Yeah.
That's it.
But can you imagine getting bills passed through then? I mean, the red tape on that will take forever.
Well, can someone explain to me why it costs like so many millions of dollars to send out mail? Like,
I don't know. What was the number?
I don't know. Was it
It was
like
like
90 million or
ridiculous.
something?
Yeah, it was a ridiculous number. I think. Okay,
That's a lot of stamps.
I think
That's a
you're
lot of
paying.
stamps.
You're paying. Obviously the workers. You're paying Australia Post. You're paying for the papers, the envelopes, the stamps,
Yes.
and all. But 90 million? I mean, that seems pretty excessive.
It is. It's very excessive.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd just bring up an article I saw this morning, actually.
Yep.
Since we're talking about it, since we may as well. Got this from The Guardian, guys.
Great.
So, yep, here we go. Labor labels John Howard yesterday's man after marriage ads. You see, because it's all about, oh, well, that's just old-fashioned. That old chestnut.
Yeah.
That old chestnut. Terry Butler says former Liberal Prime Minister's advertisements opposing marriage equality are a bit rich. In the ads, John Howard claimed that there was less generosity of spirit on the side of the yes debate because Labor and the Greens have refused to accept a no vote and would move to introduce same-sex marriage even if the majority of people vote no. Well, okay, so what's the issue here? Because you remember in the lead-up, right, because it was supposed to be like an actual vote where you go out and vote. And
like
Labor,
a proper referendum, wasn't it? Or,
yeah. And Labor and the Greens didn't want that. Which amused me because I would think like if you've been fighting for this change,
You'd be the first one on board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you get to like the final hurdle, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on, we don't want to have a vote.
Yeah. Well, what does that say? What is that? They've done the research and they've gone, hey, hang on, this vote's going to be pretty close.
Well, it's
Yeah,
a possibility.
they're afraid.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a possibility because are they afraid? Because they would come out and say, wouldn't they? No, it's because it's going to get too divisive. To which I would say every single vote ever is divisive.
It's divisive. It's
That's
the nature of
point.
a vote.
That's exactly the point of.
Well,
having a vote.
what's her name? Terry Butler.
Terry Butler.
Well,
Labour frontbencher.
if she saw Joseph Stalin, her knees would start knocking. But so, I mean, obviously, she's not going to respect the result of the vote.
No.
Personally, me, if it gets up, then hey,
Good luck.
Yeah.
that's it.
That's right, yeah.
I'm prepared to accept it. I might not be happy with it, but
Yeah, that's what, that's
Do you think
what a
people
vote
take
is.
that into? Do you think like some people in this political fight, as it were, take that for granted, knowing that perhaps one side is not going to go crazy and protest and mobilise all of their little
Absolutely.
special interest groups, whereas the other side knows that should they lose, then that's exactly what they're going to do. Because too bad if the vote doesn't. We're getting what we want anyway. You know what I mean?
I'm expecting mass suicide, basically, if the Yes campaign goes down.
I reckon, honestly,
That's
I
been a
think,
running thing, actually.
You know,
hasn't
what
it?
we've seen in America, we've seen the rise of like groups like Antifa and things like that. I think if the no vote wins in Australia, you will see that infection coming into Australia. We'll see the rise of groups like, Antifa or other sort of, the Socialist Marxist Alliance or whatever they're called, Socialist Alliance.
They're already here, aren't they?
They're already here, but you're going to see them getting more active in a physical sense, like in a tangible sense. You'll see them more of a presence in the socio-cultural political sphere.
Well, I don't know if you can blame the Antifa types, because check this out, guys. You might have to have a talk with your mum. Same-sex marriage. Research finds 8 out of 10 mums are in support of the move. There you go. I got this from the Daily Telegraph.
My mum is voting yes.
There you go.
Right.
Mothers are leading the push for same-sex marriage yes campaign, with a new poll showing the vast majority of women are in support of the move.
Well,
colour me
polls.
surprised.
Polls. Damo, polls.
Well,
I mean, we all know what polls are made of.
I got a couple of quotes here, which I thought you might like. Now, this is from the Equality Campaign co-chair, Janine Middleton. I love it, the Equality Campaign.
Yeah. They need a
Could be
campaign.
anything, couldn't it? Overwhelming support from women reflected their role as community leaders. She said, and I quote, "Women play such an important role in guiding current and future generations, and as mothers, grandmothers and aunties, we intuitively understand why fairness is important." Because, men have no idea about why
No,
you
of
should
course
treat
not.
people fairly, because they're just, evil, no
Patriarchy.
voting, patriarchal monsters.
Yeah.
Alcos.
Women understand that marriage equality is about people who could easily be part of their families. You see, men don't understand these things.
No, we don't.
And why it is important for everyone's children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews to have the same dignity and legal standing. You see, because men don't understand, dignity and legal things.
Can I just jump in here?
Sure.
And
Please
remember,
do.
we remember a few weeks ago
Yep.
that ad campaign that got banned in Australia, the Father's Day ad. Did you see that ad? Right. So
Yes, I did, yes.
you've got this. Where's this article from? The Guardian.
That was the Daily Telegraph.
That's the Daily Telegraph. Normalising the sort of what do you call it? The destruction of male presence in political discourse.
Sure.
That's what it's all about. It really is. I mean, as we know, we've seen the rise of feminism since the late 60s, early 70s, and it's all coming to fruition. Their thoughts that, or the vision that they had, it's all coming to fruition now. Father's Day is now Special Interest Day.
Well,
I think this
Special
Father's
People Day.
or
yeah.
Special Persons Day, whatever
I
it
noticed
was.
there was no similar push to get rid of Mother's Day, though.
I think
which
there
found
was actually.
interesting.
No, honestly,
was it really?
I think there was, but it
Wow.
wasn't as wide scale
Okay.
as it was for Father's Day.
I know some.
fathers can be mothers.
Well,
yeah.
we know there was
Well, yeah.
there was that thing not long ago, wasn't there? Some paediatricians in the UK, I believe, said we shouldn't refer to mothers in the pregnancy unit.
That's right, yeah.
Because it's offensive to men who want to have babies.
Yes.
I mean, this is
It's
going
ridiculous.
off.
I think there was a couple.
Firing
I think there
squad.
was. I think there was a couple in Canada where the father was raising the child as a mother, and the mother was raising the child as a father.
Wow.
And now, what do you think is going to happen to that child as they grow up?
It's gender soup.
Well, it's child abuse, isn't it?
That's child abuse.
Is it child abuse?
Absolutely. Absolutely. To me, that's child abuse.
I mean, that's the first thing that pops into my head. I mean,
Okay.
I
Fair
don't know
enough.
if there's anything wrong with that. Probably everything.
Well, we're not going to hold it
But
against
hey,
you on
I
this
mean,
show.
as libertarians,
Yep.
we would let them go ahead with that. But
Yeah.
then, as libertarians, where does the freedoms of that child lie?
Mm.
And there's a bit of you can't really reconcile those two differences.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. It's a difficult test case. I mean, in a way,
Well, you two guys are libertarians, but, isn't there...
choice. Well,
yeah.
there's people can choose to live the lives they want to lead.
Yeah.
I guess that's the central.
I would have thought rather than, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously I'm not a good libertarian like yourselves, but
don't get like that.
you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I would have thought that the libertarian stance on marriage wouldn't be that the government should legalise it for
Absolutely.
gay people. It is that the government should have nothing to do with marriage whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely.
in any sense.
The masses define
Yep.
the standard, not the government.
Yep.
Or the individual, rather. And so...
Yep.
So
Well,
it's a difficult one for
Yeah,
libertarians.
the thing is that because marriage has become a legal institution rather than just a religious institution. Not become, I mean, it has been for,
Sure.
God knows how long now.
Only
So-
God knows, eh?
Yeah, God knows.
Now, the central problem is here not so much the debate about, well, I don't care. I just do not care. If two blokes want to get married, more chicks for me. But, the problem here is the how. How it's being, just shoved down people's throats. I think that's the biggest problem, and that's a lot of people are voting no just because of that reason.
Well, the fact
that might not be right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting you bring that up because I've got another little article here for you, and let's go to it now. There we go. Support for same-sex marriage falls in poll, and this was last week, guys. Bill Shorten is still quietly confident of a postal survey on same-sex marriage returning a yes vote, despite a news poll showing its support is falling. The proportion of voters who support same-sex marriage now stands at 57%. That's a long way from the 75 that we were getting told a couple of years ago by advocacy groups, which is interesting.
Well, those polls were bullshit.
Well, they could have been, or maybe this one is, we don't know, compared to 63% in August and 62% in September last year. So we're looking at a steady decline here.
Yep.
If you're just going off this one poll, a gradual reading of that one poll, it's a steady decline downwards. And the argument that has been made is that, rightly or wrongly, whether you agree or not, I'm just saying what the argument has been, is that, the Yes campaign have been perhaps too aggressive in their tactics,
right,
and thus turn people off who otherwise wouldn't be. And we're going to talk about the NFL kneeling later on in the show, and I would say it's a similar vein to that. If you go too hard, you're going to make enemies out of people who would otherwise not be enemies.
Well, I just want to bring up that, have you seen that video of I think there were Christian Lebanese groups that went to some university, I think it was in Victoria, I can't remember.
Okay.
But they just set up a stall, they made a big bowl of hummus, a big bowl of tabbouleh, and said, look, we just want to have an open discussion, and they just got fucking attacked.
Well, maybe we should try and bring the video up.
Yeah, see if you can bring that up.
Let's have a go. You guys keep talking amongst yourselves.
So they got attacked, right? To the point where, they were taking the bowls of hummus that their mothers had made, right, and smearing it on the back of their necks because they don't cup to your face.
Good old hummus.
And they were getting their signs and stomping on them, and they were saying, "I want to stomp on your face like I've stomped on this sign."
What's this video called? Do you know?
We saw it in Sydney as well.
Was it in Sydney or was it in?
No. I think that was in Melbourne, but the one that I saw was that someone just came out of the blue. People were holding signs. It's all right to say no.
And there's two lesbians kissing or something.
Oh well, I don't know what videos you're watching. But I saw this one where they were holding signs basically at an intersection on the road.
Intersectionality rears its head once again, folks.
Yeah, and basically this lady comes out of nowhere. Oh, no, you're bigoted, and she actually stole the signs from the people.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
And just stole them all and said, "No, fuck off."
Yeah.
Wow.
So people are seeing this. People are seeing this, and people also, like my wife, she got a message from the Yes campaign saying, "Make sure you vote yes."
Wow.
Now, where do they get these numbers from? I think a few 100,000 people got these messages, and a lot of them were up in arms. They say, "How dare you invade my privacy and instill your political thoughts?" So I think all these things that the Yes campaign is doing, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Now, the thing is, if the opposite, like what I'm voting for, if the opponent wins, I'll take that. You know?
Yeah.
Look, we lost fair and square. Democracy, majority won. Okay, fair enough. As much as I hate it,
don't agree with it.
Don't agree with it. But look, that's what the majority wants. Okay, they won fair and square. Okay, it won't happen with the yes vote because even Bill Shorten said that. You were saying who was the front bencher? Terry what? Butler?
Terry Butler. Yeah, Miss Butler.
Yeah. So if they go and say they're not going to accept it, and Bill Shorten goes and says it doesn't really matter what the results are. I'm not going to accept a no vote. What is the point of this referendum? Are we just it's just gauging the national sort of sentiment, and then they're going to use that as a way to restructure their policies and their campaigns?
Well, the coalition, feels that it needs that that okay from the Australian voter, and then they can move forward and say, we're going to support that legislation. But
but here's the thing. I mean, if no wins, then we have a no-go because Labor's going to block it, every possible chance that they get. But if we get a yes win, then there's going to be, we won. So we're going to have to push this through.
I don't think that's going to happen. Bill Shorten talks a good game about this. But if the plebiscite result is a no, I don't think he'll legalise it. Like, how many opportunities have Labor had to legalise gay marriage.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because this is one of my favourite talking points about the whole thing. They were in power 6 years. You had people involved in the Labor Party now saying what a disgrace it is that the Conservatives haven't passed gay marriage, when they themselves were arguing against it. Even the pin-up girl, Penny Wong, who herself is in a same-sex relationship at the time, said that, marriage is between a man and a woman. It's traditional. That's the way it should be. Okay, well and good. And yes, you are. I'm not saying you're not allowed to change your mind, but it's a little bit rich then for when you in a left-wing party pushing a left-wing cause in opposition, then say what a disgrace it is that the Conservatives aren't doing what you weren't prepared to do yourself.
Let's remember that the coalition,
yes,
brought forward a plebiscite.
Why? I don't know. My advice to the coalition, and we've since seen Malcolm Turnbull's support fall even lower since the beginning of all this. My advice to the coalition party would be, and not that they're going to take it, but anyway, my advice would be, let the left parties prosecute left-wing issues, and may you, as Conservatives, as the coalition, prosecute conservative issues. Because I tell you why. Because it's absurd to expect the conservative forces in government to just do what the left wants them to do. And what I would say to left-wing supporters is, who say, it's a disgrace that Conservatives aren't backing this, I just say simply, well, why don't you just focus on winning the next election, and then you can bloody well do it yourself?
Well, here's the thing.
Why are you expecting the Conservatives to do your work for you?
Like you said, I don't think this is about where their interests lie. I don't think it's about, whether they want gay marriage to be an Australianised, or not. What I think this is about is, like, if the coalition says that they want to have this referendum, they just want to get this matter over and done with, because this is an axe that the Labor Party holds over the Liberal Party. Because as long as there's this division, Labor will exploit that for vote wins. As soon as that's over, that's one thing out of the bag now. So Labor knows that. That's probably another reason why Labor did not want to go through with that referendum, or the one that they put an end to last time. It was because once that cat's out of the bag, that's one thing gone. They don't have that in their arsenal to use anymore.
Yep.
And Liberals know that. Liberals want to, keep that, get that out as well.
And it's it's a handy wedge issue for the left as well, because they know that there's going to be a section of Liberals who support it and a section of Liberals
that's exactly
who don't.
What I'm saying.
It wedges the coalition against itself, and this is one area where the Labor Party, for want of a better term, is completely united, because they have that kind of fall in behind mentality.
Yeah.
It's not the because they, it's not, the liberal sense of open debate that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you do what you're told. Which is,
I think it's a great plus point for the conservative movement.
Okay.
Hey,
well,
let's
we want to hear this
well,
explanation.
Let's have a debate. Let's have a vote. That's what differentiates conservatism to,
The only difference the only thing I'd say to that is that, you've got Malcolm Turnbull coming out publicly saying, I voted yes.
Yeah, well, of course,
and
Malcolm
Christopher Pine and
exactly. So we've got Labour Light pretty much voting.
Oh yeah,
yes
absolutely.
So this is a bipartisan, combination over here. But like I said, this is a political issue. It's such a strong political issue that they want this division to keep running, because they can win votes this way.
Yeah, you mine it.
You milk it as for all it's worth.
You farm the outrage.
That's the one.
The outrage. I don't know. I couldn't bring up that article because we've had
it's not an article. It's a video.
A video. Well, we've had another internet dropout, so we'll have to. Our watchers on Periscope and now.
Thanks, NBN.
Going, what the hell's going on? So
National Broadband.
That's
Network.
it. But like I said, it will come back on at some point, but this video will be up on YouTube afterwards anyway. So should we? Perhaps,
are we ready to move on?
Should we move on?
I've got gay marriage fatigue.
Yeah, I think I've heard enough. All right, let's head over to the USA.
Sounds really good.
It is good, yeah. Because we got the new headphones, you see. So, moving over to the USA, I did want to talk about Trump's taxation plan, which I think is big news and probably should be big news, more so than, say, overpaid, roid-munching meatheads dropping to their knee in apparent protest.
Well, he shouldn't
for
have talked about it
something.
then.
No, he's fine to talk about it. But I thought, maybe we'll just play a little quick clip of that to cover that off first. We'll cover that end zone first, and we'll get that out of the way. What do you reckon?
NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
We have breaking news tonight in the war between Donald Trump and the NFL.
There is an unmistakable racial element to this story.
It's hard to ignore the racial component here. The president went on this jag on Friday night in front of a largely white audience.
That is racism. You cannot deny it. You cannot run for it. And I kneel in honor of them.
A lot of talk now about coded language. You think about what he said, disrespecting our heritage, we, to that largely white crowd. I think there's a lot of folks out there that look at this and say, what are you really trying to say here?
This feels like a culture war that's exploding right before our eyes.
Is he trying to wage something of a cultural war?
Not at all. The president's not talking about race. The president's talking about pride in our country. What you saw yesterday were players and fans of all races joining together as Americans to honor our service members. That's what the president's talking about. That's what his focus is on.
You're not going to find many voices of support outside his base, his extreme base for these remarks.
So we have a white supremacist president of the United States. The president of the United States chose to pull the sheets off and reveal himself. He thinks apparently that he is the slave master of black people in the NFL.
He wants us to be kneeling in the cotton fields again.
The idea that this doesn't have something to do with race is preposterous.
This country that he wants to make great again is all about making it white.
His whole thing is when was America, make America great again. Now we see that 1817 is more likely when he's thinking about America being great as opposed to us kneeling on behalf of righteousness and justice.
The national anthem is not a white supremacist symbol. And the president has become...
Some of the words of the national anthem are white supremacist.
You think the national anthem
I think
racist?
I think this is a country whose history is racist.
The president of the United States came out attacking NFL players for them exercising the freedom of speech.
Because that's a total disrespect of our heritage. That's a total disrespect of everything that we stand for, okay? Everything that we stand for.
All right, Lisa, and as they take a knee collectively, boos can be heard from this sellout crowd in Arizona.
I'm not sure if our president understands those rights. That every American has the right to speak out and also to protest.
As a white father, having raised 3 boys, there were a million things to worry about on a daily basis. But it's impossible for me to truly understand the challenges that an African-American father faces at every turn while raising his children.
It's like you're at the 50-meter mark in a 100-meter dash. And you got that kind of a lead, yes, because you were born white.
A lot of these players, they've got feelings, they've got emotions, they've got opinions, and many of the players I spoke to feel that their voice is not being heard. And more specifically, that the president's comments on Friday, particularly calling them SOBs, were a slap in their face. One of the things, though, about football is that it always has a way of kind of unifying us and pulling us together. We hope that this unity that spread throughout the league yesterday will spread throughout America in the weeks and months to come.
When people like yourselves turn on television and you see those people taking the knee when they're playing our great national anthem, the only thing you could do better is if you see it, even if it's one player, leave the stadium. I guarantee things will stop. Things will stop. Just pick up and leave. Pick up and leave.
And there you go. I thought that was a very nifty little video, and it was actually put together by Darren McBreen at InfoWars, and just clipping it because when you try to say to people like, this stuff's getting a bit out of control, it's race baiting and whatnot, it's easy for people to go, oh, don't be ridiculous. It's just one thing. It's just kneeling. It's not that big a deal. But when you compile like all of the clips like that and the narrative that's overwhelmingly, they're trying to bury people in it. It becomes pretty clear what it's all about. I mean, a couple of comments in that video, one of them where the guy was like, he wants us kneeling in the cotton fields again, and he's removed his sheets to reveal himself. Like, I mean, come on. And my personal favourite was the the chicken-necked, as Alex Jones would say, the chicken-necked guy who was like, as a white father of 4 boys.
Oh, yeah.
I know how hard it is, but I can't imagine how hard it is for African-American because it's like, I have 4 boys, therefore my opinion's more valid than yours. However, I'm not a black man, so I'm just white scum, really.
Well, that's intersectionality, isn't it?
And I need to sacrifice myself on the altar of political correctness in order to prove that I'm on your side, even though I'm not like you.
Tell that to the, aspiring white students who missed out on a university place because a black student got in place because of affirmative action.
Affirmative action. Oh, very controversial there, Varun. Oh no, do you have anything to add about the whole... I even feel bad calling it a debate because it's like it's not even that, it's lower than that.
Well, it was only 200 players that actually knelt. So the wide majority of players don't do that. And then we saw, the sales of Villanueva.
Yep.
I think. I mean, the sales of his jerseys just went up by I don't know what percentage
because he was an Army veteran. And the other thing too is since the Denver Broncos have come out and said, okay, we're not going to do the kneeling thing anymore. The NFL has hired PR crisis management experts because of the amount of people demanding refunds, burning their tickets. I mean, YouTube is awash with people burning merchandise. I mean, and if we're talking
young and old,
if we're talking like great libertarian traditions, then not getting involved in a voluntary, monetary exchange for goods and services, i.e., boycotting. If you don't like it, boycott.
Yeah, consumer sovereignty.
Yeah, voluntary non-participation.
Yeah. The market.
I just can't understand it. I mean, you just give respect to your own anthem. I mean, even when you go to a sporting event and, you're playing a different, another country, and their anthem plays.
Well, did you see that? When they
you don't whistle, you don't boo.
They played a game. They played a game in the UK. Yeah. And they knelt for the American anthem, and then they stood and put their hands on their heart for the British anthem.
Yeah.
And if you understand the story of the American anthem, it's when they were fighting the British. So here they are kneeling for their own and paying homage to, the evil overlords.
They don't know this stuff. They don't know the history of it all. No. They're just sucked in by what's happening around them, and it's a bandwagon. It's a bandwagon. It's an echo chamber, and they don't need to know the story and the history behind it. They just need to show that we stand in, solidarity.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
Sure.
Yeah, big win for Trump.
Buzzword. Yeah,
big win
massive.
For Trump.
Big win for Trump because
now you've changed your tune because you said
I'll take a dim view of politicians putting pressure on private companies to sack their workers or whatever. I'll take a dim view of that. I don't think that's a politician's role.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big win for Trump because, and we've seen this on numerous occasions, that, he says something that maybe, is not quite 100% correct.
Yep.
And the left melt down and it's like...
It's happening. Here we go again. Right?
And here we go again. And everyone just looking at him like, okay, Trump, maybe is not ideologically 100% perfect when it comes to free speech.
I'm sure he's not.
But that's eclipsed by the meltdown of the left, which is just like absolutely suddenly they're coming out and then they are defenders of free speech, Damo.
Yeah, well...
I mean, what a miraculous conversion.
See, I take the view that this doesn't have anything to do with free speech whatsoever. This is an employment issue.
Because it's written in their contracts that they have to stand for the national anthem. It's
part of the deal, brother.
Yeah. That's part of the deal.
Hang on, but...
And they're on NFL time. This is not something to the side.
No.
So I can
now it's costing... Hang on, one more thing.
Okay.
Let me just lob one more point in there. Now it's costing their employer revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's well within his right at that point. Like Trump said, wouldn't it be good to see get that son of a bitch off the field? It was very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But at the point where it's costing the business to have you employed, then because employers have a right not to hire people as well.
Yeah, well, that's what we've seen with Colin Kaepernick. I mean, he's not hired anymore.
Well, he was going
because it was shit. But
he was shit.
He was going to get a gig at the Baltimore Ravens, and then his girlfriend tweeted at the owner of the Ravens, calling him a slave master. And then all of a sudden, the Ravens weren't interested in him. Funny that. But now it's all Trump's fault.
But
right?
can I just get back to the point that I was trying to make? And I'm not 100% sure on this because this was on, I think, either CNBC or
Uh-oh.
yeah, it was one of those stories.
Here we go.
But I think there was an element of truth to it, and that is that it got written into the contract when the military was actually the military came in about 2009
Yes.
and told the NFL that, you know, we want your players to stand at the national anthem and we'll pay you so many millions of dollars to do so. What's the story behind that?
No,
Is that real? Is that not real?
I would say.
Well, it's only
no. That's a little fuddled there.
Okay.
I would say that the standing for the national anthem has always kind of been there because it's just like a tradition. But the military paying them was, yes, that's true, because they were paying them to like fly jets over.
Yeah.
Skydiving teams coming over.
Yes, very pro-military, and I believe that was when George W. Bush was mostly
looking for Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yes, and
recruits.
but since, you know, the NFL has taken money from government to push, join the military and stuff, and that happens. And I'm not sure how necessarily sinister that is, because it's kind of like just the military paying for advertising, so to speak. And I don't know how deep that runs, but that is one of the commentaries I've heard recently, is that since then, the NFL has been kind of in the same way been bought out by, would you say, progressive elements of the American government, and have since now started publicly backing all of these progressive movements and taking money to do. And I mean, you have Beyonce at the halftime show doing, the "We Hate Cops" routine. I mean, this kind of thing. So
whoever pays the bigger bucks,
there's an argument there.
Yeah,
there's an argument.
But the only thing is, I mean, if it was pre-2009, they were doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They were doing it because they felt an affiliation with the flag, right?
Well,
it wasn't mandated that they need to stand.
Yes.
But once the military started paying, then it was mandated that they had to stand.
Well, I don't know.
Anthem.
I don't. But now the NFL is backing the players not to stand, so that
Yeah.
doesn't really compute.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. I
If
mean,
it's
is
written
the,
into
is the military
contract.
still sending the money, or is the military not sending the money now?
I don't know, but the NFL is publicly backing the players not to stand, so that wouldn't make sense then,
Yeah.
if
So,
it was
well,
a contractual issue.
It looks I'm not even a contractual issue. I don't think there was a contract. I
Okay.
just thought the military was sending money at the time. Then they backed off sending that money because Iraq, the troops got pulled out of Iraq.
Sure.
Afghanistan wasn't really going anywhere.
Yep.
And so they pulled up some of their finances. So the Democrats, they jumped in with their sort of policies, and probably started paying the NFL groups and teams and clubs.
Okay.
And I'm just putting it out there. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do we
Money
wanna-
talks.
Do we want to? Have we heard enough about the NFL thing? Can we just
hashtag take a
get
knee?
into a little bit of tax reform?
Sure.
Okay, let's get into a little bit of tax reform here. Let's play Trumpy.
And a lot of very wealthy people feel the same way, believe me. In fact, we are eliminating most itemized deductions that primarily benefit the wealthiest taxpayers. We have also given Congress the flexibility to add an additional top rate on the very highest income earners to provide even more tax relief for working people. Second, our framework will make the tax code simple, fair, and easy to understand. Finally, Americans waste money. Americans waste so much money. Billions and billions of dollars and many hours each year to comply with our ridiculously complex tax code. More than 90% of Americans use assistance to prepare their taxes. Under our framework, the vast majority of families will be able to file their taxes on a single sheet of paper. We are also repealing the Alternative Minimum Tax, or AMT. About time. The AMT is actually a shadow tax system that requires many people to calculate their taxes two different ways and pay the higher of the two amounts. You're all familiar with it. Under our framework, the AMT will make even less sense because we are repealing many of the special interest tax breaks that it was designed to deal with. We are making our taxes simple again.
There you go. So just before we get back to some comment, I just thought I'd play Chuck Schumer, Democrats, his response to all this malarkey.
The president said he didn't want to give tax breaks to the rich. Then he should this afternoon denounce repeal of the estate tax, which goes exclusively
death taxes
to the rich when you repeal it. By slashing the top rate, this was an unpleasant surprise. Top rate goes down from 39.6 to 35. The very wealthiest of Americans get even a bigger tax break.
No mention of the poor ones going to zero.
They're doing great.
Not
God
to worry.
bless them. We're glad they're doing great. They don't need a tax break. Middle-class people do.
And they're getting one, Chuck.
So look at what this plan does. It gives the huge tax cuts to the wealthiest and the biggest
Stealing Trump's lines now.
Socks it to the middle class. Eliminating state and local deductibility is a blow to the wallet of millions of middle-class taxpayers across the country. In states like New York and California, doubling the standard
I think we've heard enough from Chuck.
Yeah.
Can I just get in there with the death tax?
Sure, please do.
I mean, there is no greater incentive for someone to be productive in their lives so that they have something to leave their kids.
Isn't that the whole point of producing wealth over a period of your lifetime,
That's right.
building up
If
a
you
business
know,
and a state?
let's say there's an 100% death tax, state tax, or whatever you want to call it. If you know that whatever you earn is going to be taken away by the government at the end of your life, you're not going to work as hard.
Or you're just going to hide it and get rid of it. And
Yeah, well,
go around
that's
the
another
system
option.
anyway.
But
Yeah.
let's say people are honest, and you know,
in a communist country, absolutely not.
and that's it's such a downer on economic growth, economic development. You know, I'm just going to earn enough so I can get through the next 20 years of my retirement. I'm not going to, you know, give anything to my kids or to my family. I'm not going to leave anything behind in an economic sense. That just stunts economic growth. It's absolute bullshit. I can't believe, you know, that Chuck Schumer.
Oh, come on. A good socialist like Chuck has not, they've never seen a tax that they don't like, ads, you know that. And if you can class death duties as just helping the rich folk, and you know, if you can take tax away from people after they're dead, I mean, this is the perfect scenario for a communist like Chuck. And
even the skeletons are getting robbed.
Even the skeletons are getting robbed. And I would say, like, my major point with, like, we don't really have time to go more deep into it, but I wish we could, maybe next time. But my major point with Trump's tax announcement is it hits a lot of things that go across the board, Democrats and Republicans, because you can't tell me that there aren't Democrat business owners who don't like the idea of their kids having to sell the business and mortgage their house in order to pay the tax bill once they're dead. So that's a big thing. The simplification of the tax reform process instead of pages and the tax return process instead of pages of inane questions, from 7 brackets down to 3. And
Beautiful.
It all fits on one page. You know, can you claim this? You know, do you earn this? Bang, you send it in and you're away. You're flying. Absolutely. Of course, the IRS wouldn't be in favour of something like this because it limits their opportunities to exploit people. Yep. And so I really think
and it cuts down jobs. I mean, simplification
jobs.
Means less people need to be employed.
Yep. I really think Chucky Schumer's barking up the wrong tree here.
He absolutely is. Here's the other thing.
The Democrats don't know who they are anymore.
Well,
absolutely, because they're not the low tax party. They've
concentrated so much on attacking their opponents that they've lost vision of where they were coming from themselves.
Correct.
Now, the other thing is, like, Chuck Schumer can say whatever he wants. This is a big attack on the middle class and blah blah blah, all that bullshit.
Yep.
But here's the nitty gritty of it. All right, if you're single and you're earning $25,000 or less, you pay 0% tax.
Correct.
If you're married and you're a couple, if you earn $50,000 or less, you pay 0% tax.
That's right.
People are going to see that and go, well, hang on, what the hell is Chuck Schumer talking about then? This, I think, when it comes to the nitty-gritty of it, when it comes to tax return time, they're going to see this and go, I actually like this. No matter how much they might be against Trump ideologically, but this is something that affects them directly.
Yep.
That's why tax reform was such an important key policy for Trump to address absolutely accurately, and I think he went really good.
It's an initial announcement. The details are to follow.
Yeah,
and
obviously, yeah.
And now these This is a better place for Trump and the Republicans to be at.
This
This is
more
not
their stomping
healthcare.
ground.
This is not healthcare debacle.
Yeah, the Republicans have always struggled with healthcare.
I would go one step further and say that this is going to be the centerpiece of
Well, it has to be.
Trump's
Yeah.
mission in 2018 when the new elections are coming up.
Yeah, and this is important for Trump because this is something that he lived.
Yes.
I mean, all the red tape.
Yep.
He did business. He saw what was difficult for business.
Correct.
And, this is something that he will be actually able to lead, in the public discourse. Like, he'll be out there. I expect Trump to be out there.
Yep.
I mean, he's not going to sit back and just say, oh, I'm waiting for the bill.
He actually admitted a few months into, the whole Obamacare falling apart, the repeal of it, he actually admitted in a couple of interviews, you know what, I should have gone tax reform first.
Yeah.
But his thinking was we need to fix up Obamacare first because otherwise it's going to hurt tax reform. Like we're not going to
he needed
he went the backwards though.
He needed to know how much, he's got how much to play with.
Like exactly.
Yeah, for tax reform because obviously healthcare is a massive chunk.
The other thing I want to say, like I think business or big business they pay a maximum of 15%, right?
20.
It's 20, that's moved.
20, okay.
It's going to go down from 35 to 20.
And expected to go to the mid-20s.
I thought it went down to 15. But in any case, people are saying this is a big tax cut for the rich and all that. But, I mean, if these are the people who are providing employment for, the society at large,
of course,
shouldn't that factor in to their assessment?
Yeah, and it gives the opportunity for wages to grow.
Yeah, and this is small business as well.
Small to medium enterprises, SMEs.
There was another announcement for small business in that, and we have a similar thing here in Australia, where any machinery you buy in for the business, you get a tax deduction on it. That's big, and people go, I'm like, but you've got to think about this. Like, taxation is it affects multi levels of the economy because if you now get a tax break, you're going to go out and you're going to go down to the other small business down the road and spend money there.
Yeah.
Then that guy's going to make more money, and then he's paying less tax. So then he can afford to put another salesman on, who's then going to go out and sell more machines because people aren't paying the tax. But it just more money washes through. the system.
More money you've got,
and more taxes generated.
But
as a result.
Here's the thing, Damo. Like you're going to say that to the person who's probably coming from a Marxist background, and they say, don't you see? This is why capitalism doesn't work because we have class division.
Yeah, right.
And so once they say that, you've delegitimized your argument straight from the outset.
That's when you get the tear gas out.
and that's why we need to have more death duties and raise taxes incrementally up to 100%. So everybody's eventually working for the government, and it's happy days. Let's hit our last little topic now.
Extra, read all about it.
You wanted to have a little talk about the German election, Varun. Let me bring up a little page here from the Weekend Australian. Poor German election result could be start of Angela Merkel's end. Well, first of all, I thought the start of the end was probably 2 years ago when the floodgates were opened. However, I would take on board that she was in such a commanding position the first time that it's probably a 2-election cycle,
Hang on.
completely delegitimization.
Can I just step on something right from the outset?
Absolutely.
She just won an election, so there's no beginning or the end here.
She won. Let me give you a couple of paragraphs here, and then we can dissect it. At the headquarters of the Free Market Free Democrat Party, September 24, activists gasped at the first exit polls were read out. Angela Merkel's Christian Democrats and the Christian Social Union, their Bavarian sister party, were on just 32.5%, much lower than any poll had suggested. So, fake polls, Brexit, here we go again. Then a few seconds later came a gargantuan cheer. The FDP had almost doubled its vote to 9%. If you keep cheering after this sentence, it will be a long night, a visibly delighted FDP leader Christian Lindner told the crowd. Such was the story of the night. The CDU, CSU and their Social Democrat coalition partners did badly. Their joint vote fell from 67.2% to 53%. The Greens defied poor polling and gained four seats, which is what we've seen. Like, as the right hardens, so does the left. Now, this is the big one. The most drastic change, and we've just lost the internet again.
The most drastic change was the AfD.
The AfD. Its arrival in the Bundestag as the third largest party. From nowhere to the third biggest party.
Because they only formed in 2013.
Correct. as an anti-EU party, and this is the crucible of the EU is Germany. I mean, it's all Germany, right?
Yep.
So
Well, you know, Germany can have no complaints.
Correct.
I mean, from an economic sense, I mean, Germany exports to every other European nation. When you talk about, you know, I don't like talking about trade deficits.
Sure.
But, you know, everyone's got a trade deficit.
Can I just
give
you one little line here from the article?
Sure.
Now, you may want to put this under the tag of slight editorializing. It is also alarming in a country with Germany's Nazi past. 2 weeks ago, Alexander Gauland, the AfD's probable leader in the Bundestag, said, "We have the right to be proud of the achievements of the German soldiers in 2 world wars."
Oh.
You're not allowed to be proud of the achievements of German soldiers in 2 world wars.
Well,
I would have thought you're allowed to be proud of whatever.
Yeah, well, you know, I wouldn't expect anything different.
You want, but it's particularly alarming in Germany, with a country with Germany's Nazi past, that someone would say that. But anyway, they got 88 seats, guys. And from 0 to that is a nice, big, healthy
massive
chunk.
jump.
And all of the talk, you'll remember, Varun, before the election was, and it is always with, like, same with Geert Wilders in the Dutch Parliament. The talk is always, it's same here with One Nation. It's the same pretty much wherever you go, where you're seeing like this realignment to a third party in order to capture the disillusioned conservative right-wing vote. We are not going to deal with those far-right bigots. Next thing you know, there they are, and they're big enough. They're just big enough. You have to kind of.
Well, they're in the rear view, they're in the rear vision. Like, I mean, before that, the AfD was far behind. Didn't have to worry about them. But now,
they weren't in
this
in
drive,
the parliament.
Well, that's true.
They're readjusting their rear view mirror and going, oh, "Holy shit, these guys are catching up," And why is this? This is all because of Angela Merkel's open door policy. I mean, she could have made some bad economic decisions. She could have made some bad EU decisions, all right? But the moment she opened up the floodgates and let all these refugees in and, sort of started diluting the culture, or German culture and European culture at large, or at least trying to attempt to, dilute the European culture at large, she just started falling behind in the polls. We've seen her go out on campaigns, on the stages, and she's getting booed.
Yes.
Like, embarrassingly bad.
Traded to Germany, these kinds of placards. She did try and, the old classic thing, make a major stuff up, blame the Nazis, but then start adopting their policies. Remember, they started to say, okay, we're going to start deporting people now. Okay, we're going to look at closing the borders now. Yep. But this was, to anyone that's, not just a Johnny-come-lately observer of politics, that this is lead up to an election talk.
Yep.
And when we get back in again, it's like, okay, business as usual
You say Nazis, but I mean, she started adopting Nazi policies, but
Germany,
quote
unquote, common nomenclature.
I know. But what I'm trying to say is the whole fact that Germany is at the helm of the EU at the moment,
correct,
and that they're trying to spread from Germany
Nazi's
the expansion
grand plan.
of EU. This is the Nazi grand plan in the beginning, anyway.
Correct.
Yes.
As our solitary pro-EU supporter, I'm going to go to Adam J on that, just for a comment on that comment.
One more thing to add to that. We've got, what's his name? Juncker, the EU commissioner.
Yes.
Is he the EU commissioner? Yeah. Or something
no, there's so many commissions and...
some head guy.
He's some guy.
Well, it's Donald Tusk, the original Donald.
Jean-Claude Juncker is actually a beneficiary of the Nazi regime.
Yes, he is, yes.
So
he's from Luxembourg, I think, his family, and comes from principality, so to speak, and their families were profiteers from World War II Nazi Germany.
Yes.
This is correct.
Not in the SR or something like that. Yeah.
Yep, so there you go.
Now we go to Adam.
Ads, what do you think? Where is, is this an encouraging result for, the right wing in Germany?
No, the amount of fuck-ups that Angela Merkel did, and for her to get returned. I mean, there's that rise in the AfD, but I mean, I just can't believe that they still picked her to be.
To be fair, like it's
and another thing to keep in mind when it comes to Europe, minority governments are the norm. I mean, her party only won 32% of the vote, but that's not like wow.
No, that's true. Yes,
it's quite different to, let's say, America or Australia in that respect.
Yep.
So,
but they did take like a nearly 20% chunk out of their overall vote, the coalition, so to speak, which
But,
shows the
you know,
dominance that she had before this.
Yeah, but the thing is, I know you say in Europe it's the norm to have minority parties, but not in Germany. In Germany, it's been different, where they have since the 1940s, I think, have been it's been a dichotomy in Germany, just like it's been in the West, like in Australia.
There is
in
one
America.
other angle to this, and that's up until this election, Merkel's party, the CDU, with the Bavarian sister party, the CSU, was in a quote unquote, her words, grand coalition with centre left party, the SPD, the oldest party in Germany, and they are the ones that actually suffered the most. They were just like in the Holland election. You'll remember because the Prime Minister of Holland was in a coalition with a centre left party there. And it was that party that went basically political wipeout. You know, they went from however many dozens of seats down to 0 or 1 or 2, and they were effectively wiped off the political map. The same thing, it's an interesting dynamic, the same thing has happened in Germany. So the message appears to be from voters is, don't you dare go in cahoots with the centre-left. We want you to steer well clear. So they've essentially, in both occasions, replaced the centre-left coalition partner of the, quote-unquote conservative government with the Nazis and the hard right, and said, okay, we're going to get rid of them and put these guys in. That's what's happened on both occasions. So, I just find that an interesting little fact.
What does Merkel need to do to get voted out, Damo? I mean,
well, I know, right? I think the reality, though, in Germany is that, we're talking about a highly controlled, it's a very big country for a start. So the realities of, say, the migrant... So if you've got, 80 million people thereabouts in Germany?
And you've got that
you've got about 2
East-West
million
dynamic, which hasn't fully...
Of which Angela Merkel is from the East.
Life for someone like a student living in ultra-secular, say, Berlin, living the life, going to cafes and stuff, is going to be very different from a young man in, the
Rhineland,
in the eastern states who can't afford to buy a house and can't find work.
Oh, yep.
So, these... Yeah, it's the same thing in all Western countries now. The inner city vote, you'll find, is predominantly, overwhelmingly to the left, and people say, "Oh, it's Christian Democrat Party." Yes, but in Germany, the Overton window is so askew that she's not really a conservative. She would be in the Greens Party in America or Australia, just about. Yeah. I mean, it's that close. So
it's that really movement of the centre.
That's right. There really hasn't been a formidable right wing presence in German politics since.
World War II.
Pretty much banned, hasn't it?
But now there is. Now there is, and so things will change as a result of that.
But Petru ran away on election night.
She did, yes, because she was under fire from her own party as well. And from what I can understand, she was under fire because she didn't go hard enough. People in the AfD wanted someone more strong arm, more hard line.
Yeah.
So, they got what they wished, because apparently the new leader in the Bundestag is saying, no, we can praise the Nazi soldiers, that's fine. So, you can't get much more hard line than that. So, yeah, interesting times. So, any closing comments for Prasad?
No, I just wanted to say, I mean, you mentioned the Overton window. I mean, the Overton window, it's no longer a sliding scale. It's just tipped one way, and the Overton window is set up camp pretty much on the left in all of Western politics.
Yep.
The way that I see it.
Now you have socialists calling, centre left people right wing Nazis, because
that's right.
So far, you have socialists calling themselves centrists.
Yeah,
exactly, and everyone else to the right of them is,
they're on the fringes. They're on the fringes.
Yep.
But of course, reality doesn't show that, because, like you said, we've had these minority groups come up, and all of a sudden, AfD, they're in the review mirror. They're in Parliament.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. 88 seats. Voice of Reason, Adam J.
Parting comment.
Any topic you want. Anything you want. Anything you wanted to hear.
Trump's cucking out.
Trump's cucking out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
But that's something I guess we can explore.
Next episode, because that's a long one, and I tend to agree with you.
Okay. Well, looks like I'll have my work cut out for me. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Sorry about the cutouts, but thank you for watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast. We much appreciate it. By the way, if you want to get in touch with us, let's just bring up the common discourse there. And click the links, follow the links through for the podcast and the videos. And until next time, we've had a great...
Hang on. Where can we catch you, Damo?
At Boogie Bumper on Twitter and Periscope, but I'm thinking I'm going to move away from Periscope at some point because it just has way too many problems, way too many cutouts. But at Boogie Bumper, Twitter and Periscope, and on Gab as well. Varun Prasad.
Yep.
At Pragmatist.
At Pragmagical on Twitter.
Pragmagical.
And The Pragmatist on Gab.
Yep. And Voice of Reason, Adam J.
To Dobrovsky.
At Twitter.
Twitter, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. It's been a good fun.
Do right in.
It was nice to christen the new studio, so hopefully we get our internet sorted out and we can get the live broadcasting happening more regularly. But
it's a globalist, folks.
until such a time,
bear with.
Bye bye.
And we saw the polling industry doing everything they could to demoralize our campaign.
Came, we saw, we died.
Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.
Go home to mommy. Bye.